and welcome to a new video. In this video I'm going to be making the second version of my Tatooine Padme cosplay, and this time I am actually going to finish it. So if you don't know, I did already try making this one time before and I just had too many things go wrong with it for me to want to finish it, so I just scrapped it where it was and decided to start a new one. So I did start that new one and it is pretty far along. So in this video I will be showing you parts of it. Unfortunately there is quite a bit of stuff that I either didn't record or I can't find the memory card that it was recorded on. So there is quite a bit of stuff that I just don't have footage for, but I will be popping in and out to explain some things and just to kind of clarify what's going on, because this did happen over the span of several months, and over the course of those months I did change up how I was doing things as I went along. So the first thing is I did have to get new fabric. The fabric I had used for my first version was unfortunately either sold out or discontinued, so I couldn't get it anymore, so I did have to find new fabric. And I really wanted to avoid dyeing fabric just because of how much fabric I would need to dye for this cosplay. Unfortunately that didn't happen, so I did buy a white lightweight knit fabric, and then I did dye it blue using iDye Poly. Unfortunately I don't have any footage of that just because I didn't record it because I was so worried about my dye job coming out right. Thankfully it did, so I am absolutely in love with the color that I was able to get. I got about 10 yards of this fabric, and that was again not enough fabric, as you will see later on in the video. So if you are going to be doing this cosplay, I would recommend a minimum of 12 yards, probably closer to like 13 to 15 yards just to be safe, because 12 yards would have been just barely enough for me. So I would definitely recommend getting at least 12 yards, if not more, for this specific cosplay. The footage I do have of making this cosplay, I have already completed the undershirt, so that is like a crop top with the ruffles, with the gathered part on it, and then the sleeves. I just did the same exact thing that I did with my first version, where I made a long sleeve crop top and then put a kind of almost a halter type thing over it that was longer, so that I could then pull it up and create that gathered look that she has. So now we will go to me picking this up after a little bit of time of not working on it. So I've already started it, dyed the fabric, and sewed the undershirt, and now I am working on the hood, cape, and skirt. Alright, so it's been a couple of months since I've worked on this costume. I just never got around to working on it when I was at school, and I am home from school now, and I've just been trying to, you know, settle in, adjust to being back home. So it has been a couple of months. I've basically not touched it since I cut all of my pieces out and dyed them. Quick update on where we're at. I have once again run out of fabric. This time I am a bit closer. I do not have enough fabric to fully line the cape part of it. I need probably about like a yard and a half more to finish lining the cape. So originally I was planning on buying more of the fabric and re-dyeing it and color matching it to what I had, but I decided that I did not want to deal with that. So I ended up just going to the fabric store and find fabric that would be close enough for me. Successful, was able to do that. And the other thing is, on her skirt is actually 5 panels. She's got the 2 back panels, 2 side panels, and then the front panel, and you can see that those 2 side panels have some pretty dense gathering to the front panel. Unfortunately, because of how I cut my front panel skirt, if I had done that, mine would have been too short. So I did originally plan to put those 5 pieces in and do that gathering on the front, but I had to end up not doing that, so mine is 3 pieces, because unfortunately if I had done that gathering it would have been too short. Alright, so you're going to have to ignore my messy room in the back. So here it is. I do not have the shirt on it. That is in the closet because that one is pretty much done and I don't feel like dealing with getting it on the arms. So here is the hood, the cape, and the skirt. Again, I have not done very much of it at all since just cutting out these pieces. I did real quick just actually sew the skirt together. So the skirt is 3 pieces. So there's a big front panel and then 2 back panels. And then this is just pinned right now, just trying to get an idea of how it's all gonna look and fit. So I started pleating it. You can see some of my marks right there. And I am pretty happy with it. This is only about half of it, but I think that this fabric is a little too thin to fully pleat it and still have enough room to like actually fit me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this super thin spandex and just kind of back the like top couple of inches where I'm doing the pleating, just to give it a bit more, just to make the pleats a little bit bigger so I don't have to worry about not having enough fabric or anything. But I am pretty happy with how these pleats are coming out. They are 3/4 of an inch wide right here, and then I'm just stitching about, I think I'm stitching 6 lines of stitching about an inch apart right here. I just have it marked with chalk so it'll come off really easily, and this is the inside of it right now. Alright, so I just finished redoing half of this with the spandex facing basically, and I am much happier with it. I don't have my gathering stitches tied off yet because I still have to do this side, so I do have a little bit that isn't gathered, but I am so much happier with it. And I think I am probably going to take out, like 1 or 2 pleats. So this is the side seam right here, and you can see it doesn't quite line up with the side, so I probably will take out at least 1 or 2 pleats just so that that will fit better, because it is going to be a bit too small if I leave all these pleats in. So it's been quite a bit of time since I worked on this. I had plans to try and finish it during the summer, and that did not happen. So we are now actually back at school and we are back to work on this. So I have the pleating all figured out. I think I know what I'm going to do with this. But for right now, I'm just going to leave this because unfortunately I need to undo these side seams. I really just have to undo one side and redo it, but I'm going to do both just so it looks the same. So unfortunately, this front panel is too short at these side seams, and it's really just on the one side. It's about an inch too short right at the seam. And I did do a little bit of gathering up here. So what I am going to do is undo this gathering right here to see if I can get just a little bit more length out of this, because right now it hits about an inch above the ground when I put it on without wearing any shoes. So it is definitely way too short, and it is going to be even shorter once I put that hem in it. So I am going to redo this seam just to see if I can get just a little bit more length out of it so that my hem won't be too short. So I finally got more fabric for this so that I can actually finish it up. I did just go and find whatever fabric was the closest color match that I could get. So this is my fabric that I dyed, and then this is the fabric I got. And they're pretty close. They're close enough for me because this is just going to be the lining on the cape. That is all I need it for. It is a like sweatshirt material, so it is a little thicker and probably going to be a little bit warm, but it is going to do exactly what I need so we can actually finally finish things up. Alright, so my cape is all done. I am leaving it as a separate piece from the bodice and the hood just because I did not want to try and figure out how to deal with getting the seam to fit along the neckline and the arm side and everything. I tried to do that last time and I just did not want to deal with it this time. So it is going to be a separate piece, and it is pretty much done except for doing the silver paint details on the back. I do have a little bit of puckering going on because the outside layer has a little bit more stretch to it than the inside layer because I did have to use the two different fabrics. But other than that, I am pretty happy with it. I do still need to even out all of the dye job from when this got rained on. Okay, so some other footage I am missing is I decided I was going to put a pair of built-in shorts into this cosplay, and that was really just for coverage, but also because I had to finish the waistband in some way. I was going to use those shorts to finish the waistband and sew the elastic too. So the shorts I just used in the shorts, I just made a quick pair of like long line biker shorts out of some white spandex that I had laying around. And then once those were done and the top of the skirt was done, I then put those together, right sides together, and sewed along that, leaving the gathering bit unsewn because I was worried about putting that gathered section underneath my machine and having it come out nice. So the front gathered bit I did end up hand sewing to the shorts on the inside, just so I would have a bit more control over it. And then once those were sewn in, I sewed in the elastic waistband, which again I did hand sew just because I was worried about that front gathered bit and making sure that it would all line up and come out how I wanted it to. It wasn't that bad. I'm pretty happy with it. And for my elastic, I did actually put a small front section of elastic underneath the gathered bit, and then I angled the elastic coming off of it, so it kind of forms like this shape on one side, on both sides, so that I could then have that nice angle that she has on the skirt. So I've been working on the skirt. I got the sides all taken apart and put back together. I finished tying off my pleats and everything, and I sewed the shorts in and an elastic waistband. So the skirt is actually almost done. I am going to put a couple of tacking stitches right here just because of the weight of this kind of wants to pull this down and flip the inside part out, so I'm going to put some tacking stitches just to try and help hold it like that. And then after that, the only thing I need to do is I need to hem it still, and then I do still need to sew the beads on, but I don't have the beads yet. So for now, all I need to do is those tacking stitches and then hem it, and then the skirt is going to be done. Okay, so I am working on the hood right now. I have sewn the back of both of my hood pieces because I have an outside piece and a lining piece, and now I am just trying to figure out how I'm going to get my hood pieces attached to the bodice of this, and it is taking a lot of brain power to figure out, but I think I have a plan. So the plan is to take the lining piece of the hood, pleat it down because the neckline of the hood does have pleats in it, and then sew it to the shirt, right sides together, so I can cover up this raw edge and everything. And then once that is sewn on, sew the piping to the outside of the hood, and then sew the outside piece of the hood on, and then hand stitch it to the neckline so I can cover up any raw edges. And I think that's what I'm going to do, and I think that's going to work. I'll let you know. Okay, so I have the inside lining piece of the hood sewn in, and I tried it on, and I think this is going to work out. It looks very, very nice. The only issue I'm having is with this shoulder seam right here because it's the shoulder seam of the shirt, so obviously seam allowance is on the inside. If I were to remake this, I would make the shirt 2 layers and put the seam allowance on in the middle of them so that it was finished on both sides. But I think we're doing pretty good. So now I have to put the piping on the outside of the hood, and then I can put the other layer on. Okay, so I have both hood pieces sewn on the trim and this edge right here, and now I have them pinned together. So I am just going to do a hidden stitch to sew these edges together. I don't want to try to deal with like putting it in the machine and flipping things inside out or any of that. I've got a little bit of funkiness going on right here just because of the overlap, but I think I'll be able to figure it out with some hand sewing. But so far, I think it's coming out pretty nice. Because there's so much fabric and I have pins in it, I can't really like hold it up and see how it's going to look or anything, or like try it on myself. But so far, I think we're gonna be okay. And everything came out how I wanted it to. I am really happy with how it all came out. It all fits how I wanted it to. Really, my only complaint is I think the hood might be a little bit too small, and the fact that I have the different fabric for the lining of the cape, which is kind of making a little bit of weirdness going on. But it fits very nicely. So here you will see me take off the cape and put it back on just so you can see how that fits. Ignore the seam that I sewed the wrong way. It is hidden behind my back so you don't see it, so I don't really care. I do still need to put some type of closure or attachment on the back of those front wrap pieces. Right now they're just pinned, and then I do also need to do the beading and the painting details on the cape, but all of that will be in a separate video. For now, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, found it useful or helpful in any way. I do apologize that this last clip is in portrait mode instead of landscape. I didn't have enough space to be able to film it in landscape, so here you go. But again, if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you want to see more of this type of stuff, and I will see you in part 2 where we finish up this cosplay. Bye!